All right, I'm going to ask you guys as co-hosts this question because as a male, you have to go through this at some point along the way. And no, it's not a prostate exam. Although that is true, you may have to go through that at some point along the way. Remember meeting your wife's dad or maybe a previous girlfriend's dad for the first time and just how intimidating of a meeting of a thing that can be. Do you remember yours, Matt?
Actually, I met my wife at college, and so the first time I really met her dad face to face was wedding day. So it was not a real difficult thing. Mine was more just asking her mom for permission to. I'd like to marry your daughter. That one was a little scary.
How about Mr. Gilstrap?
Mine was an encounter with the entire family at Chi-Chi's restaurant. That they all sat in a circle, and I was at the point of the circle next to Joy, and they just grilled me, and it was ugly. The point of the whole thing was to make me as uncomfortable as it.
Did they succeed?
Yeah, but you might guess that I pushed back a little.
Maybe.
And you survived the cut too.
I did. Well, Joy said yes. The family said no, but
she overruled.
Yeah, that's right.
Now imagine if the dad was 6'5" of Steve Catlett staring down at you as you go to him and say, "I'd like to take your daughter out tonight, Mr. Catlett," or granddaughter, maybe. That's got to be intimidating. Morning, Steve.
Good morning. Good morning, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Right. Hello, Mr. Catlett. How are you, sir? As you look straight up and straighten your neck.
I don't know that I'm that intimidating, but
you're certainly tall.
Mike Height said once that his kids worked for us at Parks and Rec, and they were scared to death. I said, I don't get it, I thought I was always a pretty nice guy.
I think so, but you're a big dude.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, you're a big dude. It would be intimidating coming to your house for the first time and saying, "Hi, Mr. Catlett, how are you? What are your intentions, young man?"
Can you put me down, sir?
That first car date that your daughter takes is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I don't have any daughters, so I never had to go through that, but I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, hey, people get through worse, I guess.
Right.
Steve, you have an opening statement you want to make as a Berkeley County Commissioner?
I just want to give some perspective, and then you guys can ask questions off of that. But I've been on the commission now almost 3 years. Of course, I worked with the commission 45 years prior to that, begging for money for Parks and Rec. And, I feel as a commissioner, and I think our commission as a whole right now is committed. I think our main responsibility is creating, with this growth, this rapid growth, is maintaining, but not only maintaining, but improving the quality of life in our community. Now, quality of life, that can mean a lot of things. And first and foremost, in quality of life, you're talking about public safety. You're talking about our law enforcement. You're talking about EMS. You're talking about firefighters. You're talking about our school system. I want to comment about that. They're doing a fantastic job in trying to keep our kids safe in our public schools and private schools in Berkeley County. Commissioner Gogan and I meet with them almost monthly with a safety committee, and they've been working on this for several years. They have really advanced. They've got SROs in the high schools, they got SSOs in the middle schools, and working on the intermediate schools now. They're doing a great job. With us, as far as public safety, we hired 12 firefighters. We went from 22 to 34, which was really important. With the way the county's grown, we cannot fight fires just strictly with volunteers any longer. We just got a SAFER grant approved to hire 12 more in the near future. That grant will pay a pretty significant part of their salaries and all for 3 years, and then after 3 years we have to pick up the full cost. But still, that's going to get us up into the mid-40s as far as firefighters. Our EMS is doing a phenomenal job. Our ambulance authority is doing great. We have our average ambulance calls down to less than 8 minutes, which is, on average is phenomenal. There's places in West Virginia where, it's 45 minutes to an hour getting an ambulance to those, situations. And in Berkeley County, we're doing a great job. We talk about public safety. All these things. We just got a SAFER grant that's the firefighters, but we got a COPS grant to recently approved to hire 5 more deputies over the next few months. And we obviously need more deputies, particularly with the situation here in Berkeley County where the state police numbers are down to about 15 troopers, where 10, 12 years ago, it was at 35. It's just here in the Martinsburg detachment. So the pressure on our local deputy sheriff and sheriff's office is tremendous. And then the 911 situation, it's costing us about $4 million a year to operate our 911 because of the growth. It's increased the budget that much. It used to be funded totally by landline phones. No, many people don't, have gotten rid of their landlines. They do have fees on the cell phones, and about 2/3 of the money we receive, which is about $3.2 million of that budget, about 2/3 of it comes from the cell phones, but that's set by the PSC and not by the county. We just talked last week about raising the landline fees, which we don't want to do because we're subsidizing the operation of our 911 by almost $900,000 now out of our operating budget. And years ago, it was totally self-sustained through the fees. So that's a dilemma that we have. But what I'm going to say to you is, our main source of revenue, of course, is property taxes, $33 million a year. That's our main source. And obviously, we don't want to raise property taxes. But we have to look at alternate ways to fund these things. And we've done that. We've created 2 TIFs in Berkeley counties, north and south. That is bringing in revenue. The public safety building we're going to build in North Berkeley County is going to be financed totally by the TIF, the North District TIF. We have created, effective now November 1st of this year, impact fees for the first time ever in this community. We were eligible to impose fees up to almost $12,000 per house. We set it at $5,362 a house. The pots that we have are Board of Ed, which qualify for over $7,000. We have them listed at $1,095. We have Parks and Rec that qualify for $2,099 at $1,721. County Admin, we kept it at the highest availability at $874. Law Enforcement $372, and Fire and Rescue at $1,300. So that's your total for that. This has the ability, based on the current growth rate over the last 10 years, to generate anywhere from $5 to $7 million a year for us. And we've never had those sources of revenue, to provide the needs that we have to continue to increase the quality of life. And once you get past public safety, what's the next most important thing is creating opportunities or places where you can create opportunities for people's physical well-being, but also maybe more important, their mental well-being. And of course, I'm talking about parks like the Poorhouse Farm. And we are so far behind on the park system side of land. We're about, the Poorhouse is over 200 acres now, which is half the acreage of all the park system in Berkeley County. We should be at about 1,400 acres right now. The impact fees is going to provide revenue for us. Out of the impact fee Parks and Rec, over the next 10 years, they project $33 million. $22 million is set aside just for land purchase. Now, we're not going to need that much money for land purchase, we don't think, but it's there if it's needed, and we're going to be able to address that. In fact, just last week, I made a motion and was seconded and approved. We have a 285-acre tract in North Berkeley County under contract now that's hopefully going to close by the end of the year to create eventually, not immediately, a public park in North Berkeley County, which is sorely needed. We need to do the same thing in the South Berkeley County area. We'd like to set aside some more acreage eventually in the Back Creek area. We feel north and south is the top priority. And so we're working to do that, whether it gets developed 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And by 2040, we're going to be at probably 200,000 residents here in Berkeley County. And they don't make land anymore. And if we don't, shame on us as a commission if we don't set aside some open space and some acreage for the future of this county, for public parks where people can go and enjoy the outdoors, enjoy their physical and mental well-being. And it's such an important role for us to do that. The county admin part of that, of the impact fee, we, by unfunded mandate, have to spend $20 million in the next couple of years to increase the judicial center. The size of the judicial center is totally outgrown itself. We just spent $1 million in the last year to take the old jail, make it a courtroom because we were out of space. And we have this mandate, and we had no way to fund it.
This is the Crawford building?
This is the Crawford building, but now we do. Impact fees under county admin can pay if we sell revenue bonds to do the project, to pay it off. And so the sources of revenue that this is creating for us to do things that otherwise we couldn't do. We couldn't begin to go out and buy parkland right now without impact fees. We couldn't begin to do this revenue thing with the Crawford building to improve it, to upgrade it, to renovate it for more court space without the impact fee. The TIF areas have been a big help. Like I say, that public safety building. We've taken land that was agricultural land, bringing in very little taxes, and by the tax increment increase, once it's developed, and you get the difference of that, which is pretty substantial, that's creating the TIF money to do this. The TIF area that we have down on the south end includes Exit 8, where we're talking about the new sportsplex potential that was presented to the governor. And of course, the whole key to that's going to be the success is that if the sales tax TIF is approved by the legislature and the governor, for us to take that area and keep the 6 cents of the state sales tax to finance that whole complex and that whole project. So that'll be the success.
You mentioned parkland in the south end of the county, but you recently broke ground for a park in the south end of the county.
We did.
Are you talking about expanding that park or additional purchase of land for some other park in the south end?
We're about maxed out there. We have 22 acres. In fact, we had Senator Capito here last Thursday. She was here, and she wanted to meet with us at the park site. She and Senator Manchin were very instrumental in getting us $1 million in earmark money for that park. I can't tell you how excited the people in South Berkeley County are about this park, Rob. It's unbelievable. And we had initially 22 acres that was purchased. First time in the history of Berkeley County that land was purchased for park use. First time ever.
Was it all donated before?
All either donated or the county owned. The additional 70 acres at Poorhouse was purchased, okay? So we're finally at a point in the history of our county where we're going out and trying to purchase parkland. We've never done that before. We purchased another 8 acres besides that 22, so that'll be a 30-acre park. But what we need is a poorhouse size, 100 plus to 200 acres in the south end as well as the north end, to have a comparable thing like the poorhouse is in the western side of Berkeley County. So we need more, but this is a great start, that 30 acres, and we're going to develop it. Senator Capito years ago worked with us nationwide. We lobbied really hard through the Park Association to get the Great American Outdoors passed. Senator Manchin was a true champion on that bill, so was Capito. It passed, and what it did was preserve the Land and Water Conservation Fund money, the stateside monies that goes to the state for projects. In Berkeley County, we've used about 12 to 15 of those grants over the year. There was a new playground just put in at War Memorial recently for ADA accessible playground, $150,000 project, 75 is Land and Water. Senator Barrett and Rutgers, state senators, give it 25 each. They each must give Community Foundation through Randy Smith's fund, committed 25, so there's the match. It's a dollar for dollar match. We just found out here recently on the Inwood Park, it was about a $12 million project, correct, to get it done. We were going to do phase one. We had about a little over $6 million in place. Well, we now have an opportunity. Land and Water, the Economic Development Office in West Virginia, contacted Region 9 and said, we've got $1.5 million sitting down here in Land and Water. Can you use it? So we're going to use TIF monies to match that dollar for dollar, and we're going to be able to put another $3 million in the Inwood Park before it's finished. So we're going to be, instead of only 50% of it, the amenities built and finished, we're going to be at about 75 to 80% when it opens next fall. So
jump in there and get Matt Miller a question here.
Really excited.
When you talk about the potential for properties, do you have properties already in mind?
Well, we do on the north end because we have it under contract, and I won't mention that until it closes and stuff. But, yeah, we do, and we've looked at already. Commissioner Kogan and I spent some time riding around on a side-by-side for one Sunday afternoon looking at a property in South Berkeley County, to be honest with you. Yeah. The property in North Berkeley County has a stream that goes down through it. It's an unbelievable piece of property for public recreation. You could build a lake about 3 times or 4 times the size of the one at the Poorhouse. The one at the Poorhouse, of course, has the Tuscarora Creek coming through. The lake that we built is about a 3-acre lake. It's the whole center and focal point of the park, It all centers around that. And this property has the potential to be nicer than that. And 285 acres, my Lord, it's unbelievable what we can do as far as other features out there and other opportunities for our community. So it's just really good stuff that's going on here, and I hope people appreciates what the commission's doing and how hard we're working. And we're trying to create ways to generate revenue to be able to provide the type of community that we want. We can't just keep building and not take care of the quality of life things and our public safety. And that's our first and foremost issue.
Are we doing? We're spending a lot of money on parks and recreation, and I think that's all. It's all great. Some of the real issues we hear from people that I don't think I've ever heard anybody in the studio say, "I wish we had more parks."
Okay.
I've heard people say, "We wish we had daycare centers. We wish we had some way to." Those are the real issues, particularly child care for young child care. Is there any focus on that? Is there in terms of quality of life,
right,
that frees people up to go to work, and we all
and
know
that is a big concern. I agree with you 100%. Yes, we've been in communication with the West Virginia Medicine, with the YMCA out of Frederick, and there's a real strong interest to potentially build a YMCA here in Martinsburg on the property that's owned by West Virginia Medicine.
Have you toured the YMCA in Urbana?
I have.
Yeah.
Along with Commissioner Gogan and I, we toured that a year or so ago. They do. The wonderful thing about that is they're going to provide child care if they come for the hospital in particular that has several thousand employees that need it desperately. But it's also going to provide an indoor aquatic center that we've talked about for 40 years here for the community and the membership of the community. And it would be a wonderful thing. And we're going to be in full support of that if that can happen. We're going to back it 100% at the commission level to try to make that happen. It would be a wonderful thing for this community. The private sector, to me, has more responsibility in child care than we do as government, in my mind. But at the same time, we recognize the problem, and if we can enhance that with the opportunity through the Y. And the good thing about it is if you help build the facility, then you don't have to worry about subsidizing the operation of the cost to operate the facility. The YMCA will take care of that. It would be very similar, we think, to the one that they built in Urbana, and it serves a great purpose there. And it goes back to the Board of Ed. It has competition pool in it so that the high schools could use it for their competition instead of having to drive out of county down to Shepherd University. So
yeah, that one's right next to Urbana High School.
That's right. Yeah. And so it's another great opportunity that could happen here, and we're working to try to make happen in Berkeley County.
And what happens, going back to the public safety with the hiring of the firefighters and all, when the grant money runs out?
Yeah.
That's a big expense that we're going to be responsible for.
It is.
And what are the plans to continue
that?
Well,
the plans, obviously, each year as we grow, our tax base is growing some. So we think we'll be in a position by 3 years from now to be able to absorb those salaries in that budget. It doesn't grow as rapidly as we'd like to see it grow, but because we're subsidizing it with other forms of income like the impact fees and the TIF fees and things like that, it allows us to maintain the operating capital generated by the property tax base to provide these salaries and benefits. Impact fees can't be used for salaries and benefits, but they can be used for a lot of things that we don't have to spend money on out of our operating budget. It saves us that money to be able to
frees up capital.
More people, sure. And that's what it's all about. We get into the sales tax thing, and I know that the anti-tax people and all that, the consumption tax nationwide is being used heavily because what it does is it provides, you have to have revenues to do good things, okay? So would you rather add it to the property taxes or add more fees to the property owners, or would you rather use a consumption tax that if you're in an area where you have a lot of people that pass through your area from out of county, or tourism, state of West Virginia is huge on tourism, that you have a lot of people that work in this county that don't live here, that would help pay that. Wouldn't you rather let them share in the responsibility of the growth of your budget than continue to just depend on the property tax part of it? And that's the argument there.
If you rolled back the rainwater fee, then
we promised we would do that if that happened. We maybe could not, even if we didn't roll back other fees, we could prevent them down the road from being increased in the future because of it.
Steve, that went fast.
I'm sorry. I talk a lot, but I'm sorry.
You had information. It's good to share. Yeah, it's never half an hour is never enough for you guys. We always need to schedule 1 hour. Yeah, we'll be after Thanksgiving week. Thank you, Steve.